So I'll start the recording now. All right, so this is the first of all of our webinars that we'll be doing to kind of just give a general overview of the college admissions process and our biggest tips in each of those steps that you'll take. So we're going to be focusing on building a college list. This is our team. I'm Maya, and I just graduated from North Gwinnett High School, and I'll be attending Princeton next year to study mathematics.
Yep, and my name is Ayush, and I will be attending Brown University as a part of their program in liberal medical education, and I also graduated from North Gwinnett High School.
Awesome.
So, as an overview, this whole process of building a college list can be really tied down to about 6 steps. Starting early, defining criteria, exploring options, making a dump list, narrowing down that dump list, and then finalizing which colleges that you should be focusing on.
Yeah, so here's kind of a more expanded look at the first 3 of those steps. So our first step is starting early, and this goes for almost every aspect of the college admissions process. Sure, it sounds like just one of those things that we throw around, like, yeah, start early, and that no one does. But I think with college admissions, this is one of the most important things that you really cannot procrastinate. So it'll obviously help reduce your stress. You'll be thinking more clearly while filling out your applications and trying to tease out which exact colleges you want on your list. And it just gives you more time to make decisions that are smarter and more informed for your particular case. And with college admissions, the more research you could do about the colleges and about your options, the better. And in order to do more research, you need more time. So you're definitely going to need to start early. The summer is obviously a great time to look over different colleges, see what they offer. But what's also important is that you can't just start in the summer and then spend a couple of days and then just forget about it for until the deadlines are due, right? You have to kind of be working on it for a little bit throughout. That way it's kind of always in your head. You're always kind of thinking about ways to strategize things in your favor instead of just having a couple of times of just looking into something and then having it knocked out of your head and not have that actually contribute to your decision-making process later on. So then the second step is kind of defining criteria. So obviously when you're choosing a college, there are things you want in it. So a lot of things that are important to people include school size, whether it's a research university that often has students conducting academic research, doing a thesis or something of the sort, or a liberal arts college that focuses more on literature, or kind of a more, interdisciplinary view of the material. Cost of attendance is obviously a big thing. Are you willing to fork out large quantities of money for that particular school or for any particular school? And the availability of your major at schools, whether it's public or private, that could change the, campus environment, and as well as the campus location. Is it in a city? Is it in a suburb? Do you like the surroundings? And those are definitely all things to consider. But that's quite a big list, and obviously it's not comprehensive. You probably have criteria in addition to those. So it's a lot of different things to kind of juggle at once. So there's a lot of good tools that helps you kind of explore your options in a more organized sense. So that's kind of step 3. The College Board on their Big Future website has some good college search tools, and basically they'll let you kind of choose your preferences off of various criteria like this, and they have more criteria as well. So you could get a very nice and narrowed search on which colleges that would appeal to you based on your criteria and your preferences on those criteria. So you could always be adding that to your college list. College Insight is a very good one if you're a data-minded person, so you like thinking in terms of statistical comparisons and things like that. They have a lot of really good data tools that are relatively easy to use, but they definitely go more in depth in comparing different colleges with respect to your criteria. And then niche is also a good way to kind of, I guess, look more at the feedback that other individuals have for that college and what kind of fit it is. And so I guess once you kind of juice out all of these different types of colleges and these different college results from these various search features, you need to organize those colleges into some kind of list or some kind of way to keep those all together.
All right, so step 4 is making the dump list and exploring your options even further. So in step 3, when we were using those college search tools, you may not have captured every school that kind of fit your requirements. These tools do a really good job of giving you a lot of different schools that fit those requirements, but don't always show you all of them. So as you start finding schools that kind of meet the requirements that you're looking for and kind of meet the parameters that you have already set in place, it's really important to start writing these down and start making a list of the different information that you've come across. And that's why we call it the dump list, because it's not necessarily the specific schools that you have finalized on, but it's just a list of tons of different colleges that you think could be a good fit for you. And don't be scared to have 30, 40, 50 colleges on this, because this is by no means a finalized list, but rather just a potential list showing what types of colleges that you've looked into, which ones that have maybe appealed to you, which ones you think could work well for you. And it'll also help you organize your thoughts and organize all the research you've done before, so that you kind of know what you're getting into when you start narrowing down your list and finalizing which colleges that you're looking into. And the other part of step 4 is finding all of the ones that you may have missed. And the best way to do this is to talk to your friends, talk to family members that are in college right now or recently got out of college, because a lot of other people are doing research as well. So the best way to get all of your thoughts together and be able to do all the research that you could is just talk to other people that are also in the process right now, because the chances are they've come across something that you may not have. And then maybe you've come across something that someone else may have not. And so this kind of community help is always awesome, because there are just so many colleges out there that it's hard for one person to find all of them. So as you're looking through as you're talking to people, using all these different tools, just write them all down in a list somewhere, and don't be afraid to have 30, 40, 50 colleges. So once you think that you've done a good job of kind of finding all the different colleges that may fit your personality, may fit kind of what you're looking for, we can move on to step 5, which is narrowing down the list. So in this step, we want to look at each school a little bit more thoroughly and kind of narrow your options down to about 15 and 20. And you want to be looking specifically at the criteria that you've set and the criteria that you think matches your personality and matches your goals. And for that, we're going to make a new spreadsheet, kind of separate from the one from your dump list, and make sure that you've basically mapped out which colleges are in which category, because there are 3 different categories that we always like to look at, which is reach, on-level, and safety schools. And we can see these by looking at ACT score ranges, acceptance rates, but basically safety schools are ones that you're confident that you have a good chance of getting into. On-level schools would be like schools that you think that you have the merit and you have the scores and you have the activities to be able to get into. And then reach schools would be ones that have very low acceptance rates that you think that you have a smaller chance of getting into. For example, a school like Harvard or schools that have below a 5% acceptance rate would be reach schools for pretty much anyone. But once you have this list of about 15 to 20 schools, you can kind of move on to step 6, which is finalizing that list and refining that 15 to 20 schools down to about 5 to 12. And this is where the really deep research comes in. So once you've finalized your kind of 15 to 20 schools in step 5, you want to be looking into each and every school in detail. What extracurricular activities do they have? What kind of professors do they have? How developed is their program in your interest? Do they have the sports that you may want to be involved in? And all of those things. And the biggest thing that I feel that a lot of people miss out on is the culture of the school matching your own personality. There are some schools, some research institutions that are very hardcore on academics, So is that an environment that you would want to be in? There are some liberal arts institutions that are a lot more open for you to explore your own interests and are a lot more laid back. So does that meet your personality? So step 6 is all about taking all of that information that you're finding and really just looking at yourself and saying, can I see myself there? Is this somewhere that I would want to end up? And at the same time, in those 5 to 12 schools, you also want to have that variety of safety, on level, and reach schools. And from this 5 to 12, we can start looking at the application process.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the entire steps or collection of steps that take you through building your college list. So here's just a Q&A that we'll be doing pretty much every webinar that we got questions that sort of relate to this introductory phase of the college admissions process. So we'll be kind of exploring those as we go through these webinars. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to put those in the chat or email us, and we'll put them in future webinars as well. So the first question says, would you recommend graduating early from high school? Do you think I would have the same chance of getting into college if I did so? So I feel like there's sort of two camps here. If you are, I guess, working on a nonprofit or some kind of large research project or some kind of large startup or something that requires a very, very large time commitment that you don't see yourself being able to balance with your requirements in school, I think it might be a good decision in terms of college. If you feel that you're going to get something out of that you could present to the college and say, I use this time wisely, and I graduated early so I could have time to do this. And if you could present that sort of case to the college, it definitely will help your application. On the flip side though, if you're just graduating early so you could get done with high school early and just have a semester to chill and hang out with your friends, well, that's great. And you should be doing that in your second semester of your senior year. It's not a reason to not go to school, period, and graduate early from. I don't think colleges look too kindly on you rushing high school in any sort of way, because they begin to question the quality of your education throughout your senior year, especially when you're introducing gaps that'll include second semester and your summer before you end up in college. They might question your work ethic or if you've changed any in your performance when you go into that college. So you want to keep the gap before entering college as small as possible, unless you're doing something super worthwhile. In general, I would not graduate early unless there's some kind of very clear benefit of doing so.
Yep, I totally agree. So one other kind of camp that some kids fall into is that they want to graduate at the end of their junior year and apply to college a year early. And students sometimes feel that if they do that, it may look impressive to colleges that they're trying to get ahead of the game and all those things. But in reality, it seems that colleges actually look at you the same as any other student graduating after 4 years. So they still compare the extracurricular activities, grades, AP classes, all of those things the same. So if you feel for some reason that you really want to get that year, save that year in your education and want to use that year maybe in employment later or something like that, that's a personal choice. But they will look at you the same as all their other applicants. So that is something that you should just take into consideration.
Yeah. So for the second question, it says, what component to you matters the most in the application process? Well, okay, so just a disclaimer first, there's not one part of your application that will get you into a college per se, because colleges have what's called a holistic admission process. So they look at you as a person, and all components of your application are weighted in some way to contribute to that admissions decision. Just know that there's not one, like, I guess, magic pill to get you into a school by, you know, having a perfect essay or a perfect GPA or a perfect SAT score. That's not going to necessarily get you in. So it's a good mixture of a lot of things. But if I were to kind of single out a component that I think is weighed the most, Um, I think it would be your personal essays, either through your Common App or the supplemental essays. Um, a lot of the other aspects of your application are kind of just listy things. So you're kind of putting just extracurriculars lists, your grades, classes you took, things like that down. And that says a lot about your, I guess, academic profile and your extracurricular profile, but it says less about you as a person. And at the end of the day, a college is admitting you as a person to live on campus and to contribute to campus in more ways than just in an academic sense. So I think that is a very important part about portraying yourself in a positive light, in addition to all of like your credentials that you put across in your application.
Yep, I totally agree. And as Maya was saying, it comes back to one thing. Who are you as a person, right? Because colleges are admitting people rather than stats. So they're trying to get to know you as a person, what kind of human being you are, what are your interests, what will you give back to the campus, those kind of things, because they're admitting you as a student rather than a score. So those essays are crucial in them getting to know you as an individual.
Yes, absolutely. And I just got another question in the chat that asks, what were some colleges on your list and what were some of the reasons why you chose those colleges? So it's difficult for me to remember correctly, but what I tried to look for, at least when I was building my college list, was definitely that balance between safety schools and reach schools. And in my case, I had Georgia Tech in my back pocket and kind of knew I was going to get in there. So I wasn't worried about, having too many safety schools, because I knew Georgia Tech was an institution I was totally fine with going to. And I knew I had admission there. So that was fine. So then the rest of my application, and again, this is my personal case, not necessarily going to apply to everyone, but the rest of my applications generally went to like reach schools. So I had Caltech, Stanford, MIT, Harvard, Northwestern, Duke, Princeton, things like that. And so I basically just looked at research universities that have very high level professors and high rated programs in mathematics or computational biology, which is something I'm also interested in. So I kind of looked for those two things, and I kind of went from there, narrowed it down, took out all the city schools because I realized I hate being in cities, and I would not be able to focus in like New York City or Atlanta or things like that, which made me less want to go to GT, but that's a different story. So I guess I kind of narrowed it down by like location, first of all, and then just the strength of their programs. And at that point, all these schools are just so incredible that like I kind of just had to narrow things down to get to a certain number. So I ended up throwing up like perfectly good schools like Duke and Northwestern I took out of my list, and I think I took out Yale. So great institutions, but I just like realized that, okay, I need to really narrow it down to like the very, very top of these schools if I'm going to apply to reach schools. So my priorities were mainly academically based and location based. Cost wasn't much of a matter to me because my parents are taking care of it. So it's definitely an individual decision, but that's kind of sort of my process and how I went through it.
Yeah. So for me, that experience was almost the exact opposite. And that's kind of the best part of the college admissions process, is because, and making this list is because everyone has their own criteria that they're looking for. So I actually love the cities. So all of my schools were like right in the city. And as a pre-med student, I've always wanted to become a doctor. So I knew I was going to be pre-med. That was a big factor in my decision making, is how good is the university at pumping out medical school acceptances? And I've always been interested in biology and neuroscience, so how good is their program and those kind of things. So my list kind of got focused around those aspects of pre-med, the natural sciences, and being in a city, and those kind of things. And So my list ended up being with the safety schools, the Georgia in-state schools of, Georgia State and Kennesaw State, kind of started off there, and then kind of worked myself up with, University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, because that's in-state. And then my reach schools were places like Brown, Duke, Hopkins, that were all kind of pre-med oriented. So that was my experience.
Yep, and yeah, just to emphasize once again, these are all super unique. You don't need to choose schools just because other people had them on their list. A lot of times it is nice that people with similar interests will have a particular college on their list, and you might want to look into it then. But it's not a necessary thing that, okay, this person had it on their list, so I need to put it on mine. It's a very individual process because it is your life for the next 4 years and your family's contribution in terms of finances and things like that. So it is a very, very personal decision that you shouldn't have too many external factors about what other people are doing affect it. So like we mentioned, one of the most important parts of our application is our essays, and as well as other holistic aspects of it, like listing out your extracurriculars and things like that. So we do offer private counseling for kind of guiding you in a very in-depth and individualized manner on those essays, and just filling out your Common App, finding recommendations, and just doing all of the mess that is college apps. And we're going to try to make it as simple as possible for you. So these are kind of our packages. So yeah.
Right. So we kind of have two different segments with our packages, kind of the normal undergraduate admissions and then BSMD, the BSMD equivalent, because with the BSMD programs. So the essay writing package, basically we can help you out with brainstorming for the Common App essays and different supplements. And then we also help revise your essays and provide feedback on how we can really make it awesome. Then we also have our application creation package, where we kind of guide you through the Common App, how to list out your activities, how to describe the things you've been involved in, how to get recommendations, how to put in test scores, and all of that fun stuff. And we have, of course, the BSMD kind of equivalent of the essay writing package, where we kind of help out specifically with the bachelor's, the kind of the 8-year program essays. And we also do interview prep. So a large part of the college admissions process is actually doing an interview with the representatives from the college. Now, this is not there for all colleges, but I would say for about half of the more notable ones, the more notable out-of-state ones, have interviews. And you basically go and meet with someone and do an interview, and we can help prep you for these interviews. And so you are kind of calm and ready to go when you get involved with those.
Yep. So then we have our complete packages, one for our general undergraduate and then one for BSMD admissions. So for the general one, we could help you walk through building your college list, and you also get a Google Calendar task manager individualized for your due dates for every part of your application. So you won't ever miss a beat in terms of turning things in and having documents in, which can be sometimes the most challenging part of the application, is just managing your time and managing all the various tasks involved. So we'll definitely have that to help you there. And then we help planning out with your extracurriculars and how to list those out in the most appealing way. And then help getting letters of recommendation. So kind of framing emails to teachers, how to reach out to them, how to even decide which teachers you want to get recommendations from. And then we have the essay writing package, which Ayush talked about before. So we help out with brainstorming and then revising, and then the application creation package, which again, Ayush talked about before. We get those 2 interview prep sessions, which are, again, another insight that the college has into you as a person. So it's another place that you really want to show up in terms of telling them who you are and the amazing person that you are. So you really want to make sure you kind of nail that to show them that you actually are the person that your application is reflecting. And another part of the college admissions process that a lot of people kind of undermine in terms of importance is financial aid and scholarships. Sure, you could get into the best school, but you'll be paying like $250,000 after the 4 years to pay for it. So financial aid and scholarships are extremely important in kind of getting those top schools into reach, and even just the schools, really any school that you're interested in, and making that as financially viable as possible. So then the BSMD complete package, that's basically the analog of the complete package, except with BSMD little perks. So you get help making the BSMD program list. You could start the pre-med education planning. So you're kind of like setting out a timeline for how things will go for you. And then again, that individualized task manager on Google Calendar. And you get help with planning out those extracurriculars and tailoring them in a way that looks very appealing to BSMD programs. And then letters of recommendations, that essay package that I just talked about for BSMD, the application creation package, and then the 2 interview prep sessions, as well as the financial aid and scholarship guidance. So the prices for these are all located on our website. And if you have any questions about them or need any more information, definitely feel free to shoot out an email or ask them now. And yeah, we will definitely be ready to help out and are looking forward to working with y'all. So steps to take now in the summer. You should definitely start defining your priorities and your criteria for which colleges you want to be attending, and start kind of framing that dump list. Look into our private counseling, which we had just gone over. So that's all on our website. You could look through all those descriptions again, and then reach out with any questions, and then just reach out if you are interested in getting yourself involved in one of those. And then definitely it's summer. It's explore things. One of the advantages that we said of starting early is that you could have low stress when you're kind of exploring things and just kind of take it easy. And kind of be able to think clearly when you're building that college list. So definitely explore it. This is an exciting time. You're kind of at the pathway of, going to an amazing school in the next 4 years. And so it's a great time to kind of look out and see your opportunities, and just view it from a relaxed point of view, because you do have the time since you are starting early. And of course, take it easy and by actually taking it easy, and don't worry about college and just have fun. So it is summer after all. So yeah, those are steps you should take now to kind of get you on path. And here's our contact information if you ever need to send us an email. And again, all of our information is on our website as well. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And if not, we will conclude the meeting. All right. Looks like we're good on questions, so I'll stop the recording.